Dan, earlier this year, right on the heels of the Giants winning the Super Bowl, we took a look at the Manning brothers and which quarterback has had the better career up until this point. What might be a more realistic comparison, one that makes more sense, is Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger. Also, of course, have both won a few Super Bowl rings and were both drafted in 2004. It seems like there may be a more logical argument there. So that's what we're doing today. You're on the Eli Manning side of the debate. Why don't you tell me why he's had the better career?
Well, Eli Manning obviously was the more hyped player coming into the league as the first overall pick in the draft the year those two players were drafted. But you look at the numbers between these two guys and the success they've had in the postseason, really hard to find much of a separation between the two. They're very even. But I think one thing that does jump out is the Super Bowl MVP awards Eli Manning has. He has 2 of them. Ben Roethlisberger still has 0. Eli Manning is in a very rarefied air when it comes to excelling in the game. I think that defines quarterback's career more than any other. And the group he's with is Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, Bart Starr, the only guys to have multiple Super Bowl MVP trophies. Ben Roethlisberger, while in elite company, is not quite in that level.
Eli has been absolutely tremendous on the biggest stage. There's no question about that. They have both been absolutely terrific, bringing their teams back on the biggest stage, huge in the fourth quarter. I want to go back to something you said at the top, Eli being a little bit more hyped coming out of college. To me, that's interesting because if we kind of look back on the rookie seasons of both Eli and Ben Roethlisberger, we'll see about as big a discrepancy as you can possibly imagine. Eli Manning's rookie season kind of gives you a sort of Blaine Gabbert type feelings, while Ben Roethlisberger, of course, was just tremendous. Sort of a TJ Yates type deal, but really that much greater. Of course, took his team, came from 3rd string to starter and knocked off the previously undefeated Patriots, did the same thing with the Eagles, who were on a roll. So we know, obviously, where both of their careers have wound up, where they're at this point, but it's interesting to see sort of the opposite direction in which they started.
Well, I know, we're kind of focusing on football here, but do we have to broaden the scope a little bit? Maybe to see just where these guys career-wise, if it's all-encompassing, all right. Now, I mean, Eli Manning, a guy who I think everyone agrees has been a very, very good guy, a guy people that, he's hosting Saturday Night Live, he's a pinchman on commercials. His career is taking places off the field where Ben Roethlisberger just hasn't gone for obvious reasons. We know about what's happened in the past and some of the allegations that have been made against him. So while Eli Manning is going to be remembered, I think, as kind of a beloved character in NFL lore, Ben Roethlisberger's place is going to be probably very different, even though he's achieved great success on the field.
Listen, I don't blame you for not ignoring that, or excuse me, for mentioning the huge elephant in the room. It belongs in this conversation. But I was asked to defend him on the football field. I'm not going there. I'm not going to defend Ben Roethlisberger off the field. I'll head back to his on-field accolades. I think what else has impressed me so much about what Roethlisberger has accomplished is his ability to put his team on his back. Not because Eli hasn't done that, but because when you look at the running games of these two teams, when you look at the offensive lines of these two teams, I think they've both been strengths for the Giants for the most of Eli's tenure. When you look at the Steelers, you think about them being kind of a smash-mouth identity. The truth is they haven't been as productive running the football as the Giants have been. That has caused Roethlisberger to have to do more on his own. He hasn't had the protection. We both know what kind of issues they've had keeping Roethlisberger upright and on the field.
And both players, you could say, their success, I think, is a little bit of a reflection of how good the defenses they've played with have been. Maybe Roethlisberger is a little bit more consistently elite than what Eli Manning has had on that side of the ball. But numbers-wise, I mean, Eli Manning's thrown for more touchdowns. Ben Roethlisberger has a higher completion percentage, higher quarterback rating. He's thrown fewer interceptions. He's been more efficient, but Eli Manning maybe a little bit more prolific. I don't know. It's a very even battle. You could go either way. To me, Eli Manning's the separator I just come back to is that the Super Bowl performances we've seen from him. You talk about how Brent kind of put the team on his back. I think Eli Manning has done more and more of that as we've gone on, and it was no more evident than last season. So maybe it's just, what have you done for me lately? And that's why I'm looking at Eli Manning over Brent Roethlisberger right now.
And that makes a ton of sense. I think the whole flavor of the week aspect of this, and that's not to take anything away from Eli. We shouldn't take anything away from either of these players who, if they continue on this direction, are going to be Hall of Famers. I just look back to Roethlisberger's fourth quarter heroics. They may be a little bit more in the back of our minds, but he's also one of the most clutch guys late in games of anyone who plays the quarterback position. So, both terrific guys. I think we'd be happy with either one of them.